Let me start by appreciating this opportunity from the program director, Dr. Elijah Luvengo, the assistant commissioner who operates from the commissioner's office. Let me secondly also appreciate the leadership of the Interministerial Consultative Committee on Border Management, which continues to provide political leadership to the work that we do as the BMA, fairly chaired by the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Leon Schreiber. I will also want to appreciate the leadership of members of the Border Technical Committee of Directors Generals, who continue to also provide technical leadership to the work of the Border Management Authority. And of course, I would like to also appreciate the Deputy Commissioner for Corporate Services, Madam Jane Tupana, together with the Deputy Commissioner for Operations, Major General David Chilembe, retired, all the Assistant Commissioners for the Border Management Authority, together with the Deputy Assistant Commissioners, and of course, the entire membership of the border management ecosystem. Also want to appreciate the presence of our colleagues from the media. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Once again, we are gathered here today to reflect on the work of the Border Management Authority. But this time around, we will be looking into the work of the authority in relation to the first quarter of the 2025-2026 financial year. This fairly covers the period, the 1st of April 2025 until the 30th of June 2025. This briefing is taking place just 3 days after the launch of Women's Month in South Africa. So in this light, we would like to celebrate all the women who continue to contribute towards the implementation of an integrated border management model with a single command and control. We do recognize their resilience, leadership, sacrifice as they carry their border law enforcement responsibilities, which includes immigration, health, agriculture, environmental, biosecurity responsibilities, as they do that with professionalism, strength, as well as unwavering dedication across land, air, and sea modalities, which are our areas of responsibility. This report has been reviewed by all members of the Border Technical Committee, as well as those of the Interministerial Consultative Committee on Border Management. In presenting this report today, we aim to reiterate some of the critical requirements for the effective as well as the seamless facilitation in terms of the movement of people and goods across our ports of entry. We'll then conclude by providing a briefing on the launch of the new security-based immigration stamps as implemented from the 1st of August 2025. So ladies and gentlemen, and South Africa as large, allow me to present this quarterly report on the Border Management Authority. And we are to start with the work we do in as far as Port Agricultural Specialized Function is concerned. During this quarter under review, our agricultural biosecurity specialists who are mandated to regulate the importation as well as the exportation of agricultural products by ensuring compliance with the South African agricultural biosecurity legislation as well as relevant international standard had processed a total of 38,094 consignments of agricultural goods through our top 26 commercial ports of entry. In this regard, these consignments were subjected to specific inspections as well as monitoring to ensure their full compliance to the safety and quality assurance measures. Some of the processed consignment contains regulated agricultural goods such as plants and their products, which pose phytosanitary risk to the Republic. Additionally, some of the consignment process related to live animals, their products, which could also pose veterinary health risk to the country. For the smooth facilitation of plants as well as their products at the ports of entry, importers as well as exporters are required to present both an import permit issued by the Department of Agriculture as well as the phytosanitary certificate issued by the country of origin with full compliance to the South African import conditions. Similarly, as for animal as well as their products, importers are expected to present an import permit as issued by the Department of Agriculture as well as the veterinary health certificate issued by the country of origin, and once again with full compliance to the South African import conditions. In fact, both importers as well as exporters should prepare all required documents well in advance of the consignment arrival at the port of entry in order to prevent unnecessary delays. It should be noted that where a consignment is found to be non-compliant to import conditions, it will either be treated, destroyed, or it will be sent back to the country of origin. Colleagues, if we can then move to reflect on the work we do in as far as port environmental specialized function is concerned. In this quarter, our environmental biosecurity specialist processed a total of 1,223 consignments under the Convention of International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, commonly known as the CITES, through our top 15 commercial ports of entry. Although South Africa is renowned for its exceptional biodiversity and is ranked high amongst the world's most biologically diverse countries, we have an obligation to closely manage the international trade in endangered species. Similarly, we also have an obligation to protect South Africa's ecosystem from invasive as well as alien species. Therefore, the BMA environmental biosecurity specialists have the responsibility to inspect and to monitor the movement of consignments carrying listed endangered species or specimens at the port of entry. To ensure compliance, importers and exporters are advised with regards to importing, re-exporting, and importing of endangered animals and or plants that they are required to apply for the relevant permits from the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment. In this case, to book for an inspection, they should contact the BMA via email cites@bma.gov.za or even by telephone 012-065-1167 or 071-609-0747 within the minimum of 48 working hours prior to import, export or re-export in line with the permit conditions. Similarly, when importing alien invasive species into South Africa, the importers are advised to apply and obtain a relevant import permit from the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment. In this case, when booking for inspection, an email can be sent to temba.mguni@bma.gov.za or at karabo.wanjau@bma.gov.za within the minimum of 48 hours prior to the inspection as per the issued permit conditions. At the inspection, the importer is expected to present the original import permit, the packing list, the customs declaration form, commonly known as the SD 500, together with phytosanitary certificate for plants or veterinary health certificate for animals as issued by the country of origin. During these processes, should non-compliance be identified, the matter should be handed over to once we identify non-compliance, the matter is therefore handed over to the enforcement team of the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment for further investigation. Should there be a need for an appeal in relation to the identified non-compliance, such appeal should be directed to the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment. If we can then move, colleagues, to reflect on the work relating to port health specialized functions. Even during this period, that is the 1st of April 2025 to the 30th of June 2025, our port health specialists continue to screen travelers who entered the country for communicable diseases as they were entering the Republic. In this regard, about 42 travelers were refused entry due to public health risks that had been identified. About 24 suspected malaria cases were referred to public health facilities for further processing. Additional to the screening of travelers, our Port Health team do monitor the importation of health-related products such as foodstuffs, cosmetics, disinfectants, hazardous substances, human remains, biological products, including tobacco, for compliance to various pieces of legislation under the National Department of Health. Our Port Health specialists serve as the first line of defense against health risks associated with cross-border movement of people, conveyances, baggage, cargo, shipments, and other imported consignments. This is critical for preventing the entry of contaminated or unsafe food products that could pose a serious health risk to the country. At the port of entry, our Port Health specialists verify a variety of public health documents to confirm their validity. These include Ship Sanitation Control Certificate, Maritime Declaration of Health, Aircraft General Declaration, including yellow fever vaccination certificate. All this is done in order to maintain international health standards and prevent the introduction and the spread of communicable diseases through land, maritime, and air travel. Regarding the movement of human remains, our Port Health specialists have in this quarter processed a total of 986 permits of the movement of mortal remains, of which 44 of those were bodies that were imported into South Africa, while 942 were bodies that were exported out of South Africa. In this regard, all requests for the exportation permit for the movement of human remains must be submitted to the National Department of Health to the email humanremainspermits@health.gov.za. To this end, it should be noted that no permit shall be issued at the port of entry regarding the movement of human remains. In relation to cremated human remains, people should note that no import or export permit is required. However, the death certificate, the cremation certificate, and the copy of the deceased identification must accompany the ashes at all times during the transportation and should be presented at the port or to the Port Health specialist at our port of entry on request. Additionally, travelers in possession of cremated human remains are reminded that such ashes should be contained in a sealed airtight container and placed within an urn or a vase. Further, travelers should also note that the importation of any medicine or scheduled substances, whether for personal, commercial, or emergency use, is strictly regulated. Therefore, no person is permitted to import such substances to the Republic of South Africa except through formal import processes as regulated by the licensing issued by the South African Health Product Regulatory Authority, which is acronymed as SAPRA. Furthermore, such formal imports can only be processed at Cape Town International Airport, at Cape Town Harbour, at Cape Town International Airport, Port Elizabeth International Airport, as well as at Port Elizabeth Harbour, Kinshasa International Airport, Durban Harbour, as well as OR Tambo International Airport. Now, the designation of only these 7 ports for handling this kind of consignment remains critical for maintaining public health and preventing the possible entry of counterfeit or unregistered medicines and substances into the national supply chain. Travelers entering or departing from South Africa are further reminded that with regards to the carrying of personal medicine during traveling, a quantity not exceeding 1 month's supply is allowed. Additionally, where the traveler is traveling with Schedule 3, 4, 5, and 6 medicines, the traveler should have a valid prescription from a reputable medical practitioner. Regarding the cross-border transportation of sick passengers into South Africa for medical attention, either by commercial flight, chartered flight, or road ambulance, the conveyancer must notify the BMA Port Health team prior to traveling using the AC1 and AC2 forms. The notification should be accompanied by the medical report, the acceptance letter from receiving doctor or hospital, identity document or a passport, including medical visa issued by the South African High Commission or Embassy, where applicable. In this regard, all applications should be sent to an email, lanseriapoe@bma.gov.za. In terms of yellow fever requirements, vaccination is mandatory for travelers over the age of 1 year for those coming from yellow fever endemic countries, and this includes travelers who were in transit for more than 12 hours through an endemic country. At the port of entry, failure to produce a valid yellow fever vaccination certification would lead to refusal of entry or quarantine for a period not longer than 6 days, except for travelers over the age of 60. The refusal of entry would not apply to South Africans returning home. However, travelers with valid exemption certificate for medical reasons will be allowed entry but placed under surveillance and required to report any fever or other symptoms to the port health specialists. Colleagues, if we can then move to the work we do in terms of port immigration specialized function. In this quarter under review, our port immigration specialists processed a total of 8,582,250 passengers who were either entering or leaving South Africa. All travelers entering or departing South Africa effectively are required to possess a valid machine-readable passport. A valid passport must contain at least 2 completely unused pages, excluding the last page, which must always remain blank. If a passport has no free pages left, it is considered as full and will not be accepted for entry and may not be used for any further travel. It has been noted that many travelers arrive at the ports with only 1 available page remaining, often mistakenly offering the last page for stamping. Such travelers should note that immigration officers are not permitted to stamp the last page of the passport, as is the case in all other jurisdictions across the various parts of the world. However, for a South African citizen returning home with no free page, entry will be allowed, but such traveler will be advised to renew their passport. As for the torn or damaged passports, their validity will be tested through the scanner machine, and should it be unreadable or fail verification, the traveler will be declared undesirable and therefore denied entry. In terms of visa as well as permits, travelers from outside or from other countries who are not exempted for visa requirement must also hold a valid visa appropriate to the nature of their visit. Otherwise, they will be denied entry. On visa regulations, the BMA is responsible to enforce compliance with the terms and conditions of various visas and permits at the port of entry. Therefore, travelers who are declared as fugitives from justice or are the subject of court order instructing the country to prevent them entry or departure will be detained by the border guards. They will be handed over to members of the South African Police Service and Interpol for further processing. At the port of entry, it is mandatory for travelers to provide a residential address of their intended place of stay in South Africa as they enter through the port of entry. All travelers who are granted a particular visa are only permitted to engage in activities under that particular visa, typically tourism visa, for instance, or short-term stay visa. If a traveler intends to work, study or engage in any other activity beyond a visit, they must apply for and possess a relevant visa and comply with all the associated conditions thereto. Any traveler with outstanding administrative fines will then have to provide proof of payment before being allowed entry or departure. Regarding the movement of children, we just want to start by noting that the world has just celebrated the International Day of Trafficking of Persons on the 30th of July, 2025. Therefore, in this quarter, of course, as part of the work that we do, we have intercepted about 13 children across various ports of entry, of which 5 were unaccompanied and were therefore handed over to the officials of the Department of Social Development for further processing. The remaining 8 who were with their parents were refused entry as they did not meet the entry requirements into the country and therefore returned to their respective jurisdiction with their respective parents. In this light, we would like to re-emphasize the requirements for the cross-border movement of children at the ports of entry. Firstly, for a child who is under alternative care, must produce a certified copy of an authorization letter from the provincial head of the Department of Social Development prior to departure. Without this letter, the BMA immigration officer will refuse such departure. Secondly, parents traveling with children must produce the unabridged birth certificate of the child, showing both parents' details. If only one parent is traveling, an affidavit from the other parent authorizing the travel, or a court order granting full parental rights, or a death certificate of the other parent will be required. In cases where both parents are deceased, the child is traveling with a relative or another adult, approval from the Director General of the Department of Home Affairs must be obtained to permit such kind of travel. Otherwise, it will not be allowed. Thirdly, in instances where an individual is traveling with a child who is not their biological child, the individual traveling with the child must also carry the child's unabridged birth certificate, an affidavit from the child's parents or a legal guardian, presenting them permission to travel with the child, copies of the parents' identity documents or passport, and the contact details of the parents or the guardian in question. This is to ensure that all travel involving minors or children is lawful and in the best interest of the child. As for unaccompanied minors at port of entry, the minor must present a letter or an affidavit showing consent from one or both parents or legal guardian. If only one parent grants consent, a court order giving full parental responsibility must also be provided. The full details of all these requirements will then be found at the BMA website at www.bma.gov.za, or also at the website of the Department of Home Affairs at www.dha.gov.za. Regarding the declaration of persons prohibited or undesirable, the BMA immigration specialist keeps a monitoring tool, which we commonly known as the V-list, within the movement control system. One of the most common reasons for inclusion in this V-list relates to when people overstay their legally permitted period in the Republic. In this case, should a person overstay by less than 30 days, they are declared undesirable for a period of 12 months. However, should the same person repeat this offense within 24 months, they will be declared undesirable for 24 months. In the event that the person is overstayed by more than 30 days, this will then lead to a 5-year declaration of undesirability. But of course, in the spirit of fairness, a traveler who has been declared undesirable may apply to uplift the ban by providing sufficient motivation and supporting evidence to the Director General of the Department of Home Affairs. For example, a person who overstayed due to being hospitalized or being ill during their stay can write to the DG of Home Affairs, produce a hospital admission letter or a doctor's note as part of their evidence. But at the end, all this documentation in the application process will be subjected to intensive investigations and verification before expunging the ban from the system. Regarding conventional border law enforcement work as undertaken by the border guards, we want to report that in the quarter under review, a total of 9,954 persons were intercepted, apprehended, and deported as they were attempting to enter the country illegally. Of these 9,954 persons, 5,826 did not have documents at all. 2,127 were inadmissible, mainly for many reasons, either because they carried a fraudulent visa, or probably they had a passport that did not meet the requirement, or they did not have a yellow fever certificate. And of course, 2,000 of those were considered undesirable, either because they previously overstayed in the country, or probably they or they did any other thing before that made them not to be admitted into the country. In this instance, the majority of the intercepted and deported individuals, as always the trend, had been Basotho-laden, followed by Zimbabweans as well as Mozambicans. Incrementally, since July of 2022, at the first point of deployment of the border guards, they have been able to stop about 496,622. That is an what we call incremental figure. And of course, that is the total number as per the work from the point of inception. Further, in the same quarter, our border law enforcement team has also intercepted and handed over a total of 15 high-powered suspected stolen vehicles for further handling. In this particular instance, incrementally, once again, since July of 2022, we could count around 349 vehicles that were actually intercepted by the border guards, handed over to members of the South African Police Service for further processing. And of course, in this particular instance, we are indicating that this has been the work done by criminal syndicates with the intention of taking cars out of South Africa into the rest of the continent. Additionally, in dealing with illicit trade, which negatively affect our economy, the border guards seized about 32 bales of counterfeit clothing, 201 pairs of counterfeit footwear with an estimated value of $1 million, as well as 98,000. In terms of document fraud, 14 passports bearing fraudulent immigration stamps were identified, confiscated, and of course the individuals holding those were arrested. And of course, this further illustrates the ongoing attempts to undermine national security as well as our immigration controls. This particular reality lead us into the issue of the BMA having to launch or having launched the new BMA immigration security-based stamps. We want to confirm that on Friday, the 1st of August 2025, the BMA has introduced new security stamps to replace the old vulnerable stamps which has been used by the immigration specialists for all this while. In the past few months, we observed widespread misuse of these stamps, with individuals illegally stamping people's passports with fraudulently reproduced stamps. These initiatives forms part of the BMA's broader commitment to strengthen national security and represent a deliberate step towards enhancing the integrity of border control processes. In this regard, we collaborated with our colleagues in the government printing works and designed a new stamp with the highest security standards, which effectively include the BMA logo, as well as the big five in the value chain. And of course, that is to ensure that we prevent any tampering, forgery, or even unauthorized use of those particular stamps. Before the introduction of the new stamps, all key stakeholders across the criminal justice system and the broader management and the broader border management ecosystem had been consulted and engaged on this matter, including our countries that we service in the value chain. Now, the withdrawal of the old stamps was carried out concurrently with the distribution of the new ones. Each of the immigration officers had been allocated a specific stamp with its unique number linked to each officer in order to trace back should that particular stamp be found to have illegally stamped a particular passport with the intention to illegally facilitate illegal migration into the country. Whilst we started with the immigration-based stamps, We are now embarking on redesigning the new stamps for other specialized functions such as health, agriculture, as well as environment. As the BMA, we would like to indicate that it is the responsibility of each and every traveler to ensure that their passports are correctly and lawfully processed at official ports of entry to avoid being refused entry or deported or even declared undesirable or in other instances being arrested. Let's then move to reflect on the issues around the training of the border guards in as far as drone piloting is concerned. As we continue to strengthen our border security efforts by leveraging technology-driven solutions such as the usage of drones for border surveillance, during April 2025, we sent 8 of our border guards for pilot training. Today, we are proud to announce that 6 of our border guards graduated and qualified as the drone pilots as for the 14th of July 2025. I suppose people will remember that in the past, we were being assisted by the drone pilots from the Department of Agriculture who were effectively working with us, firstly by operating their drones that we borrowed and ultimately assisting us in operating our own drones that we procured. But of course, this particular instance do indicate that now we do have our own officials who are effectively able to take this work forward. In order to increase our drone operations capacity, we plan to send more border guards to drone pilot training as we move to more modernized border law enforcement and improve our detection of variety of cross-border crimes such as illegal migration, trafficking, goods and human smuggling, amongst others. The skills they have acquired will strengthen border security efforts through enhanced surveillance and increased visibility, particularly in the identified vulnerable segments along the borderline. Further, we have also partnered with the South African Reserve Bank and trained the border guards on counterfeit detection as well as currency handling. And this gave them the necessary skills to identify counterfeit banknotes as well as coins in circulation, especially when people will try to move them interjurisdictionally. In closing, the BMA acknowledges that more needs to be done as other risks continue to emerge. As such, we continue to implement robust contingency measures and emergency response protocols to our ports to address any incident that may arise. The BMA remains dedicated to upholding the integrity of our borders. We are committed to maintaining the highest standard of professionalism, transparency, as well as efficiency in our operations. We also urge all travelers to cooperate with border officials, adhere to established protocols, and report any corruption or suspicious activities at the BMA website, www.bma.gov.za, or they can actually call our Operation Hitibise number of 0801 229 019. And that is the essence. And colleagues, we really appreciate your presence on the basis of the report that we've given. And I suppose we will then go further to be handing over some certificates of some of the pilots that are here in our midst versus those that are out there in operations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for that very informative briefing. It was not only covering the progress that we've made with regard to Q1, it was also obviously covering those key requirements that travelers need to be aware of when they are transiting or crossing the borders. So on this note, we will then request colleagues, that is Mr. Judas Masila, as well as Ms. Refilwe Thala, to come to the podium so that the Commissioner can hand this certificate after they've successfully completed the drone pilot training.
Marcella Judas, come forward, sir.
Thank you very much.
maybe before I give this to Thala Refilwe, let me just quickly indicate what kind of things they did. Air law for RPA, general technical principles flight, radio links, flight planning, navigation, and meteorology, and all of those. So that's the complex stuff. I don't even know them myself, but so they understand the stuff. Madam?
Thank you very much, Refilwe. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thanks, Madam. Great.
Before we could transition to another item on the clarity-seeking question, we will request Dr. Nkoma to come and demonstrate to us the stamps that the Commissioner has referred to, and also maybe touch on the security features that are on the stamps. He will also cover, obviously, the old stamp that we were using. And then thereafter, we will then request DAC Mkhotsi to come and handle the next item, which is about clarity-seeking question. That is the question and answer session. Thank you, Doc.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. I think you've given a bit of background in terms of why we have decided to replace the old stamps which posed serious security challenges for the country. So what you see there on the screen on your left, it's the old immigration stamps that we phased out as from the 1st of August. You can see the upper part. This is how insecure the stamps were in terms of the design, and you could easily reproduce them without any difficulty to an extent that you can use a pencil and a ruler to draw the squares. And if you have some bit of mathematics, you can use a compass and a pencil to draw the circle as part of the fraudulent activities. The bottom part shows the casing of the old stamps that can be anything that would carry the stamp itself. So you could, in general, get these stamps from any a bookshop or a stationery shop. They can be reproduced anywhere else. But moving to the new immigration security stamps, you could see that in the design we've included quite a number of security features, which some of them are observable through your naked eyes, but some are fat layers of security that would require specialized equipment to be able to detect. And that specialized equipment is an equipment that would be carried by members of the Border Management Authority, where a suspected stamp may be detected at the port of entry. In the design itself, there's quite a number of tagans, which are microscopic markers that are included, which seeks to assist us with authentication, identification, as well as traceability of any of the fraudulent stamps that we may come across. Even with the casing itself, you can see that it's more secure than the one on your left. There are some imprints or engravements that have been made into that stamp using laser technology that cannot be found anywhere else except from the government printing works. Even the ink that we are using here, it's a specialized ink that you cannot get anywhere else except from the government printing works. And also in terms of identification of a particular modality, you can see that there are distinctive features across all the three modalities. In your air environment, you can see that there is an aeroplane landing or taking off. Same with the maritime. There would be a vessel departing or coming ashore. In terms of the land modality, there will be a person who either comes or leaves the country. So these are some of the basic measures and improvements that we've made in terms of the new security systems, and we are hopeful that with this we will be able to manage the threats and security risks that we've been observing over the previous years. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nkoma. And obviously, if there are questions that are going to be raised, you need then to come so that we are able to respond, DC, but we will, RC, but we will then ensure that you have a chair decide. So I'm trying to avoid a situation where I'm calling people by what they are wearing, and then I know Membe Mkhotsi is familiar with the names of the people who are here. I don't want to say that the gentleman with a pink shirt, only to find that it is not pink, it's white. So I have requested DAC Mkhotsi to come and facilitate this particular item. That is in the event that there are questions that you want to raise to the Commissioner or to Regional Commander Dr. Nkoma. DAC Mkhotsi?
Good morning to the Commissioner of the Border Management Authority, Dr. Michael Maseapato, the Deputy Commissioner of Corporate Affairs, Ms. Jane Tupana, the Deputy Commissioner of Operations, Major General David Chilembe, Assistant Commissioners in the room, Deputy Assistant Commissioners, colleagues, members of the media, good morning. I will be facilitating the question and answer session, and as per protocol, before you pose a question, can you kindly indicate the media house you are representing as well as introducing yourself for the benefit of the colleagues in the room? I will be starting with that process now.
Calvin. My name is Calvin. I'm from SABC News. I have just two questions. The first question that I have, am I audible?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. The first question that I have is about the corruption within the BMA. In April, there were officials that were arrested at the Beit Bridge for allegedly accepting a bribe, allowing 5 undocumented people to enter South Africa. So I just wanted to check, because I heard the Commissioner talking about corruption, but I'm talking about corruption within the officials of BMA, because it would be impossible, highly impossible for BMA officials to work if some of them are corrupt. What are they doing with that? Are they getting convictions, people suspended? And my second question is about underfunding of the BMA. The Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs expressed its deep concerns over the continued underfunding of the Border Management Authority. How are they dealing with underfunding?
Thank you for those questions, Calvin. Any other questions? Okay, we'll deal with those questions for now.
No, thanks, Calvin, for the questions. Yes, indeed. Corruption has been something very much problematic in as far as the border management ecosystem is concerned. So we want to indicate that at the point of taking over as the Border Management Authority, particularly from the 1st of April 2023, we have put a lot of measures in place to be able to deal with corruption, particularly the one perpetrated by the colleagues who are actually working within. And I want to reflect on those in the broader context. The first one is around the provision of Section 13.3 of the Border Management Authority Act, which instructs that all the officials have to undergo a vetting process. I want to indicate that that particular process is underway, and we are very much confident as it unfolds, being implemented by our colleagues from the State Security Agency, that we should be able to start picking up those individuals with red flags, particularly when it comes to an issue of living beyond their means. Secondly, we have started an engagement with the Special Investigating Unit, and the intention was for us to be able to do some bit of lifestyle audit, which we know it is something that is very much critical, particularly for the purposes of understanding people's integrity, but once again picking up issues relating to their affordability levels or living beyond their means. Unfortunately, we wanted to start with the 100 or the top 100 officials, which includes myself and the rest of the management team, including every other official who is in the room, as we then take it down to the rest of the officers. And to that extent, we got a quotation from the Special Investigating Unit, which was at around 9 million. And we wanted to implement that in the current financial year, 2025-2026. Unfortunately, we could not proceed with that because we could not afford that 9 million as we speak. We are very much willing, we are very much ready to be lifestyle audited. But because it is a costly exercise, we do not have the money to do it. We can confirm that vetting is not a costly issue because it is done by the State Security Agency as provided for in the National Strategic Intelligence Act, and therefore there is no cost. Hence, we are busy rolling in as far as that part is concerned. What are the other interventions that we have done to deal with issues of corruption? Firstly, we want to emphasize, Calvin, and the rest of South Africa, that we do know generally that when it comes to corruption, in many instances, we actually activate reactive measures. Reactive measures which leads into a number of arrests, a number of dismissals and all of that. A typical example, just in the quarter we've just spoken about, from a human resource point of view, we have actually been able to dismiss around 9 officials, exactly as we have indicated, who had been found to have actually done things outside the legislative framework. That is just in the last quarter we are reporting about, 1st of April until the 30th of June. So that is the reactive part. It is very much unfortunate that we continue to find and get officials and we continue to dismiss them. Now, it was on that basis that we decided to change the tact and say, let's try to be proactive. And what do we then do to be proactive? One of the interventions was to ensure that we implement some bit of conversations in workshop context driven by our Integrity Management Unit, where they go into the various ports and engage the officials and basically teach them on issues of ethics, teach them on issues of patriotism, but also make them understand the implication, as they will definitely be caught, the fact that they will then be fired. One of the other issues that we have done was to also engage with the Department of Correctional Services and be able to get some of the officials that have actually been fired, but also having criminal cases opened against them, and they are serving term in the correctional environment, and be able to come and demonstrate how bad it is to be caught and ultimately to end up losing everything. So those are some of the issues that we have done. Over and above that, we then put together an agreement together with the Special Investigating Unit, something that was publicly launched, if you remember. It's called Border Management and Immigration Anti-Corruption Forum. This is a platform upon which various role players in the law enforcement ecosystem are participating in, with the view of making sure that we do proactive work, We actually even do preventative work, but we also do investigative work, and we ultimately make sure that those that are to be prosecuted are taken through the value system as fast as possible. All of these are the interventions that we have done. Lastly, I want to indicate, you will remember in April, we did launch, as we were launching the drones, but we also indicated that we've procured 40 body cams. And by the way, once again, should we then get additional funding, we will be able to buy more of the body cams. So body cams get worn by the officials as they do the work. And on that basis, every interaction they do and make with the traveler is basically captured on both audio and visual. And that on its own enables us to be able to monitor the activities of our officials as they do their work. Already, that has actually contributed into the arrest of the individuals you are referring to, especially in Beitbridge. And as we speak now, they are going through the court system, and it is on that particular reality. So those are the issues that we've put together in dealing with corruption. There's a lot of others that we continue to do as we identify the risks and all of that. The future state is to make sure that the entire port environment is under serious surveillance with high-rise base cameras where every other thing and every activity is going to be on record. Unfortunately, we don't have that as yet, but it is part of our plan as we go into the future. And hopefully, we will be able to get something or money to be able to install those so that we can be able to completely account in as far as this issue of corruption is concerned. And of course, Calvin, that leads us to the last issue, the issue of funding. We have spoken in as much as we could when it comes to the issue of funding. It is a matter of public record that when we started BMA in 2023, the request in view of our own organizational structure, the request in view of our own ICT requirements, the request in view of our own need for the procurement of the tools of trade as a new law enforcement authority was to cost the state around 2.9 billion. And that is what was in our business case as submitted to the National Treasury. And of course, as you know, once again, it's a matter of public record. We actually got 250 million. And that is what caused things to be a bit difficult in as far as where we are. And that basically meant that the following year, which is then 2024-25, the 250 became 300 million because it was 50 million added. And that led us into the current financial year, 2025-2026. Another 50 million got added and we are at 350 million. And that is why we are sitting at an overdraft of 4.3 billion as an organization to be able to take this work forward. Again, it's a matter of public record. We've been engaging in Parliament, including at the Standing Committee of Appropriation, obviously the Select Committee on Security and Justice, together with the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs. All of these things I'm saying are matters of public record, to the extent that it is also very much known that we are operating at 20% capacity. Our current structure requires at least 11.2 thousand people, and we are sitting at around 2,500, and that is where we are. And I think you know, in terms of the border guards, we only have 600. In terms of the coastal guards, we only have 50. And that is the current status quo. But of course, we cannot afford to throw our hands in the air and actually do nothing. We are continuing to do work with what we have. And ultimately, we do hope that as we do the work, there will be some recognition of the work we do. And therefore, funding will find us along the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for responding to those two questions. We were made to believe that even for those who are attending virtually, there is no indication that there are questions. So on that basis, we will then conclude this session and invite to the podium Commissioner Managa to give us or render an item on the vote of thanks. Commissioner?
Thank you, Program Director. Let me start by greeting the Commissioner of BMA once again, Dr. Mike Masiapato, the Deputy Commissioner of Corporate Service, Mme Jean Thupana, Deputy Commissioner of Operations, Major General Chilembe, Assistant Commissioner and Deputy Assistant Commissioners, member of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I think on the behalf of the BMA, we just want to say we appreciate you coming here on Sunday and coming to indulge us. It is always good to be given an ear to share with the country the work that we are doing. So on that note, we want to appreciate you all. We want to also say in conclusion, we look forward to further engagements with you as we start the facilitation and of movements of the upcoming G20. And yeah, thank you very much. Travel safe. Thank you.
Thank you. I know the formalities are concluded here. I know there are those media houses who would like to engage the commissioner or deputy commissioner. I think we are going to do it here. If there are any interviews that you want to take, instead of going that side, okay, we are going to have them here.